Dear children, we will move on to the second video of government budget and economy. In the first video, we learned about the meaning of government budget and we learned about the objectives of government budget. Now, in this video, we will be learning about the types of government budget, the components of the government budget. Now, moving on to components of government budget, let us see what are the main components of government budget. Now, the components of government budget, mainly there are two components of government budget. They are revenue budget and capital budget. The two components of the budget are revenue budget and capital budget. Now, under the revenue budget, we have two subdivisions. They are revenue receipt and revenue expenditure. What do you mean by receipt? The money inflow is known as receipt. Expenditure means money outflow, the payment that we make. Okay, so the revenue budget consists of revenue receipt and revenue expenditure, and the next one is capital budget. Capital budget consists of capital receipt and capital expenditure. Just as we have explained about the revenue receipt and revenue expenditure, we have capital receipt and capital expenditure. So once again, the government budget has two components. One is revenue budget and the capital budget. The revenue budget consists of two components, that they are revenue receipt and revenue expenditure, and the capital budget consists of two components, they are capital receipt and capital expenditure. Now we will move on to the first subcomponent of revenue budget, that is revenue receipt. Now, what is meant by revenue receipt of the government? The revenue receipt refers to those receipt, that means money inflow, the money which we get, the government gets. The revenue receipt refers to those receipt which neither create any liability nor causes any reduction in the asset of the government. That means revenue receipt is a receipt which is not reducing the asset of the government, or it is not creating any liability to the government. So it has two main aspects. It is neither creating any liability nor reducing any asset of the government. So the government is not facing any reduction in its asset, and it is not facing any burden of liability too. So this is all about the revenue receipt. So revenue receipts are those kind of receipts which neither create any liability. So you have to be very careful when you use the word neither create any liability nor causes any reduction in the asset of the government. And they are regular in recurring in nature. They are the one which occurs regularly, and they are recurring in nature. That means it is repeated. It comes every time. So they are regular and recurring in nature. So once again, revenue receipts are those receipts which neither create any liability nor reduces any assets of the government. So government doesn't have any headache. It is regular and recurring in nature. Now, there are two main sources of revenue receipt. The two main sources of revenue receipt are tax revenue and non-tax revenue. The two sources of the revenue receipt are the tax revenue and non-tax revenue. So it is not, the revenue receipt is not creating any liability, or it is not reducing any asset of the government. Now it has two main sources. They are tax revenue and non-tax revenue. Now what is meant by tax revenue? The revenue that the government gets through taxation is known as tax revenue. What is non-tax revenue? The government gets the revenue other than the tax. That revenue is known as non-tax revenue. So we will be discussing the tax revenue and non-tax revenue in detail, the two main sources of revenue receipt. Tax revenue. Now you all are very much familiar with tax. The two main types of tax that we pay are direct tax and indirect tax. Now what is meant by direct tax? The tax we pay directly to the government is known as the direct tax. Say for example, income tax, the property tax, building tax, all these are the tax which we pay directly to the government. So that is known as the direct tax. So nobody can escape from that tax. Building tax, road tax, all these are the taxes which we pay directly to the government. That is known as direct tax. So direct tax. So tax revenue consists of direct tax and indirect tax. Direct tax is imposed on property and income. I told you building tax, property tax, income tax, all these are direct tax which we pay directly to the government. And they are imposed on property and income of the individuals and companies and are directly paid to the government. They are imposed both on the households as well as companies. They are imposed on property, they are imposed on income as well as on companies. You are learning it in accountancy, isn't it? Companies, they have to pay the tax, profit tax, isn't it? So they are the direct tax which is paid to the government. So they are known as direct tax. Okay, properties of direct tax. So once again, direct tax is imposed on property and income of the individuals and companies, and they are directly paid to the government. The properties of direct tax. The first property is the burden lies to the same person. The burden lies on the same person. You cannot shift the burden because you are directly paying to the government. So burden is on you. Next is, it cannot be shifted. You cannot shift the burden to any other person. You are bearing that burden. Next, it will affect the purchasing power of the people and aggregate demand of the economy because you are paying from your income, isn't it? So if your tax is more, if government is imposing more taxes, your purchasing power will become less, isn't it? Because your income shows your purchasing power. So if more tax is given out of your income, that will affect your purchasing power. If purchasing power is less, aggregate demand also will become less. What is meant by aggregate demand? The total demand of the economy, isn't it? So if the purchasing power is becoming less, the aggregate demand in the economy, the total demand of the economy will also be affected, adversely affected. So it is a tax which affects the purchasing power and the aggregate demand of the economy. Example, income tax, wealth tax, property tax, building tax, definitely profit tax, all these comes under direct tax. So direct tax, its burden cannot be shifted to any other person. You have to bear the burden of the tax, and the purchasing power is affected due to this tax. If the income tax is high, the purchasing power will be adversely affected. Okay, and that will affect the aggregate demand of the economy. Okay, now next we will move on to indirect tax. What is meant by indirect tax? The tax which affect the income and property of individuals and companies through their consumption expenditure. Through their consumption expenditure. What is meant by consumption expenditure? You know, expenditure. When we pay something, it is expenditure. Consumption expenditure means what? When we pay for goods and services, that is known as consumption expenditure, because as consumers you will buy goods and services. So expenditure on that is known as consumption expenditure. So in fact, what do this indirect tax means? When we buy goods from the market, we have to pay the tax for the good that we are buying. That tax is known as indirect tax. For example, sales tax. If you buy a particular product from the market, you can find MRP inclusive of tax. You are paying the tax, isn't it? The producer has shifted the burden of paying the tax to the consumers. So who is paying the tax indirectly? The consumers in the market are paying the tax, indirect tax. So burden is shifted from one person to the other person. Okay, so when you buy that particular product, you are paying the tax indirectly. That kind of a tax is known as indirect tax. Sales tax is the best example for indirect tax. Now all these are clubbed up together under GST. Okay, Now, so indirect tax means the tax which affect the income and property of individual. This tax will affect the income and property of individual. This tax will affect. This tax is not paid on income and property. You have to be very careful. This tax will affect. That is the main point here. This tax is not paid on property and individuals, but this tax will affect the income and property of the individuals and companies through their consumption expenditure. When they buy goods and services, it will affect their income by paying the tax indirectly. That kind of a tax is known as indirect tax. Example, the tax imposed on goods and services. Then here the actual burden of the tax lie on one person, but its burden is shifted to another person, that is consumers. For example, MRP inclusive of tax that can be seen in the product. Okay, so burden is shifted to consumers in the market. Now it is clubbed up together and it is under GST, goods and services tax. Now here the main point that you have to note is direct tax cannot be avoided. Compulsorily you have to pay, because if you have a building, if you have property, you have to compulsorily pay tax to the government. But indirect tax can be avoided. Indirect tax can be avoided. How it can be avoided? If you are not purchasing a particular product, you can avoid the tax of that particular product. For example, for certain products, the tax will be very high. If you are avoiding the purchase of that kind of a product, you need not pay tax for it. That is why indirect taxes are not compulsory. If you want to avoid the indirect tax by not purchasing that good, you can avoid that indirect tax, no problem. But direct tax you cannot avoid. It is a compulsory payment. Next we will move on to non-tax revenue. So we are discussing about the two sources of revenue receipt, that is the tax revenue and non-tax revenue. Two sources of revenue receipt. Revenue receipt comes under revenue budget. So under revenue budget there is revenue receipt and capital receipt. We are discussing about revenue receipt. What is revenue receipt? The receipts which neither create any liability nor reduces any asset. In that revenue receipt there are two sources, tax revenue and non-tax revenue. Tax revenue we have discussed now, two types of taxes, direct tax and indirect tax. So from the definition itself it is clear, this taxes, the tax revenue which comes under the revenue receipt, it is not creating any liability to the government or it is not reducing any asset of the government. Now we will move on to non-tax revenue, the next source of revenue receipt, non-tax revenue. So what is meant by non-tax revenue? All types of revenue the government gets other than the tax is known as non-tax revenue. The receipts of the government from all other sources other than the tax is known as non-tax revenue. It includes interest, fees, profit and dividends, license fee, fines and penalties, then a sheet, gifts and grants for features and special assessment. All these are the non-tax revenue. Now let us discuss these one by one. First one is interest. Interest on loans given by the central government to the local government, state government, etc. Now all types of the tax, all types of revenue that the government is getting other than the tax is known as non-tax revenue. Under the non-tax revenue, the first component is interest. What do you mean by that? Now you all know that there are three levels of government: central government, state government and local government. Now for example, if the state government is in need of finance or money to function, you know that sometimes expenditure will be more for the government. So for example, if the state government is in need of more fund, it will approach the central government So central government will release the amount to the state government for a particular amount on the basis of rate of interest. So the central government will advance loans to the state government whenever the state government is in need on the basis of interest. The loan will not be given free of cost. It will be given only on the basis of interest. So the central government will be giving the loans to the state government for its functioning. Whenever it is in need of the finance, it will be approaching the central government. So central government will be advancing the loans for a particular rate of interest. So when the state government is getting the loan from the central government for a particular rate of interest, periodically the state government will be paying the rate of interest to the central government. That rate of interest is a revenue for central government. It is an example of non-tax revenue. Okay. Now the next one, fees. The charges imposed by the government to cover the cost of services. You know that different services are paid by the government, isn't it? Government hospitals, isn't it? Government hospitals, outpatient department, a minimum amount people have to pay for it, for the consultation of doctors. It is only a minimum amount. So that kind of fees, court fees, we have to pay the court fees whenever we approach for something in the court. Then registration fees, land registration, when you do the property registrations, you have to pay a fee for that. So this kind of court fee, registration fee, all these are charged by the government for the service that the government is doing for the people. That fee is a revenue for the government other than the tax. Then comes profit and dividends. Profit from the public sector undertakings like BHEL, LIC, railways, etc. That is another source of non-tax revenue for the government. All the government undertakings which function in our country, the revenue from all those public enterprises, that income is an income for the government. Likewise, that is LIC, railway, all these comes under the government department. So the revenue from all these is an example of non-tax revenue. Along with that, it also gets dividend from the investments in other companies. Now the government makes investments in other companies. Okay, so for that dividends are provided for the government. You know, you have learned thoroughly about dividend in accountancy, isn't it? So investments which government make in other companies. So a dividend is shared for the government. So that is also a non-tax revenue for the government. Then comes license fee. Government gets license fee for providing permission of keeping or keeping gun or national permit for commercial vehicles. To get license for running of certain institutions, or to get license for keeping the gun, or to get license for the national permit for commercial vehicles, national permit to move on anywhere in India, to get the national permit for the commercial vehicles which carry the goods, the vehicles which carry the goods, big trucks, all these needs national permit from the government. So they have to pay a fee for the government for getting that permit. That is known as license fee. It is also an important source of non-tax revenue for the government. Next is fines and penalties. Those payments which are imposed on law breakers. For example, you are supposed to follow the traffic rules. If you are violating the traffic rules, what will happen? You will be imposed with certain fines, isn't it? That kind of fines is also a source of revenue for the government. Okay, then comes the next one, escheat. It means it is a claim of the government on the property of a person who dies without a heir, isn't it? If there is no heir for a particular person who dies, his property will belong to the government, for nothing, for nobody else other than the government. So that property is also the one which belongs to the government. That is also an example of non-tax revenue. Okay, so if a person who dies without any heir or relatives or anybody else for his property, So that property belongs to the government. Next is gift and grants, both from the foreign government and international organization during crisis, war, natural hazards and disasters. What do you mean by that? Now, if our country, if our government is getting some help, financial assistance, grants and grant in aid means financial assistance from the foreign countries or foreign financial institutions like IMF or World Bank in cases of the natural hazards or war, that also comes under the non-tax revenue of the government. Because you know, years before Kerala was affected by the flood, isn't it? It got the fund from so many foreign countries, financial assistance that comes under grant in aid. So if we are getting any financial assistance from the foreign countries or any foreign financial institutions like IMF, World Bank, so that grant in aid comes under non-tax revenue. We need not pay it back. That is one property of grant in aid. Grant in aid means it is a financial assistance given by one country to another country. So the receiving country need not pay it back. That is why the grant in aid is coming under non-tax revenue. We need not bother to give it back. It is a financial help given by another country to our country. So we get financial assistance during natural hazards or disasters. Such financial help from outside countries and foreign financial institutions will come under non-tax revenue. Then comes the forfeitures. What is that? A form of penalties which are imposed by courts for non-compliance of orders. So it is a penalty which is fixed by the court. Okay, so the court also fixes some kind of penalties. That penalty is known as the forfeitures. Okay, that also comes under the violation of the law. Then comes the next one, special assessment. It refers to the payment made by the owners of those properties whose value has appreciated due to the developmental activities of the government. It is one-time payment. For example, if in a particular place, if the government is building up certain commercial buildings or any other developmental programs are initiated by the government, what will happen to the value of that particular area, the value of land of that particular area? The value of the land of that particular area will be upgraded, isn't it? For example, the construction of metro railways, then the permission of the government to construct multinational companies at Kakanad. All these places, due to the construction of these commercial buildings and multinational companies, what has happened? The value of the land has upgraded, it has gone up. Therefore, if the value of the land has gone up, if the people are taking benefit of that due to the building of commercial, due to the construction of commercial buildings by the government, the people have to pay, people have to make a particular payment amount, people have to make a payment of particular amount to the government for the benefit that they are receiving. That kind of a payment is known as special assessment. How special assessment comes under non-tax revenue? Special assessment is not a tax, it is a one-time payment. It is a one-time payment. That is why it comes under non-tax revenue. It is a one-time payment. It is a payment given by the people who are residing in that particular area, because the owners of those properties, their value has appreciated due to the developmental activities taken by the government. For example, a shopping complex or big commercial buildings which are constructed by the government can change the value of the particular land, and the people who are living in that area, if the value of the land has appreciated, the benefit is for whom? The people who are living in that particular area. Okay, the value of their land will be appreciated, it will go up, that particular area will be developed, so people are enjoying the benefit of that. It is just because of the building that government has constructed there. So such kind of developmental activities have taken place there. So for that, the people have to pay a particular amount to the government. It is a one-time payment. So that is why it comes under non-tax revenue. The name of that is special assessment. So all these are the components of the non-tax revenue. So tax revenue and non-tax revenue are the two major sources of revenue receipt. So we are discussing about revenue budget, the two components of revenue budget, revenue receipt and capital receipt. Revenue receipt has tax revenue and non-tax revenue. So what is revenue receipt? The receipt which neither create any liability nor reduces any assets of the government. So the revenue receipts are of two types. They are the tax revenue and non-tax revenue. Tax revenue consists of direct tax and indirect tax, and non-tax revenue consists of escheat, forfeitures, then interest, the income from the public enterprises, special assessment, etc. Okay. Now we will move on to the next component of the revenue budget, that is capital receipt. Revenue receipt and capital receipt. We finished with revenue receipt. Next we are moving on to capital receipt. What is this capital receipt? It refers to those receipts which either create a liability or causes a reduction in the asset of the government. Just opposite of what we have learned in revenue receipt. Capital receipts are those receipts which either create a liability. It is a receipt. Money is flowing inside, but that flow of money is creating a liability to the government. At the same time, it is reducing the asset of the government. So what is the difference between revenue receipt and capital receipt? In revenue receipt, the receipt is not creating any liability. It is not reducing the asset of the government. But in capital receipt, that receipt is creating liability for the government and it is reducing the asset of the government. Both are inflow of money, both are receipt, but capital receipt is a liability for the government. It either creates a liability or reduces the asset of the government. Okay. Now what are the sources of capital receipt? Let us see what are the sources of capital receipt. So once again I repeat, capital receipts are receipts. We are getting money, government is getting money, there is inflow of money to the government because it is a receipt. But there is a problem. What is that? They are either creating a liability or reducing the asset of the government. Let us see what kind of inflow of money is creating the liability to the government and reducing the asset of the government. The components are, sources of capital receipts are, first one, borrowings and other liabilities. It includes the borrowings from RBI, foreign banks, international organization, etc. They create liability for the government. When I explained the revenue receipt, the first point in non-tax revenue was interest. What did I explain at that time? You know there are three levels of government: central, state government and local government. When the state government is in need of money, it will borrow money from the central government. How? On the basis of rate of interest. For the time being, the state government is getting money for its purpose. That is revenue receipt. But later on it has to repay the amount with the rate of interest. That is a liability for the government. That comes under the capital receipt. Similarly, what I have written here is borrowings and other liabilities. It includes borrowing from RBI, foreign banks, international organization, etc. If the state government is in need of finance, it can approach the central government. But if the central government is in need of money, whom it will approach first? The first person whom it can approach is RBI, Reserve Bank of India. After that, the central government will approach the international organizations like IMF, World Bank and other foreign countries, foreign banks. When that is done, what will happen? We get money for the purpose now. We get money for our purpose. Government is getting money for the purpose. When that government is in need, government is getting the money. But it is creating a liability for the government to repay it back with the rate of interest. And that rate of interest, when government is paying, it will reduce the asset of the government. That kind of a receipt is known as capital receipt. So once again, capital receipt is a type of receipt which either creates a liability or reduces the asset of the government. Here, capital receipt is a receipt because government, central government, when it is in need of money, it is getting money from the foreign government and foreign banks. Definitely it is a receipt, but it has to pay the amount, repay the amount with the rate of interest. That is a liability. When it repays the amount with a rate of interest, it will reduce the asset of the government. So that kind of a receipt is known as capital receipt. Then comes the next one, recovery of loans done by the state government, the central government, that has been borrowed by the state government. I told you, when the state government is borrowing the money from the central government, it has to repay the amount with the rate of interest. Recovery of loan. When they repay the amount with the rate of interest, it will reduce the asset of the government. Likewise, same as the first point, when the central government is borrowing money from the foreign banks or foreign institutions, it has to repay the amount, recovery of loan, repay the amount with the rate of interest. That will reduce the asset of the government. Next comes other receipt. Next comes other receipt. Other receipt includes disinvestment and small savings. What is meant by disinvestment? It refers to the act of selling a part or whole of shares of selected public sector undertakings held by the government. It leads to the transfer of ownership of public sector undertakings to private sector enterprises. Now, government, if undertakings or public undertakings, if it alone cannot function, it will sell a part of its share to the private companies. That process is known as disinvestment. It can also sell a part of its share to the public. So the public will be, if it is selling to the public, to the general public, to the people, they will be getting the amount more than what they have bought from the government during the maturity time. It will be sold out in the forms of shares and bonds. Okay, so that process of selling a part of the share of the government, selected public enterprises, the selling part, a part or whole of share of government company, public sector means government company, to the private sectors is known as disinvestment, privatization, disinvestment or privatization. Why government is doing like that? Because government is finding difficult to run by its own, or it will be in need of money. So for that, to meet that need, government will be selling a part or a whole of share of its company to the private enterprises. That is known as disinvestment. So that comes under the capital receipt. It is a receipt because government is able to meet the need because of this process, but at the same time its asset is getting reduced because it is selling a part or whole of share to the private companies. By doing so, what is happening? Its asset is reduced. If it is selling to the public, it has to repay the amount more than what the people has bought from the government during the maturity period. So it again creates liability to the government. So that is known as other receipts, which comes under the capital receipt, disinvestment. Then comes small savings. Small savings through post office. Government raises fund from the public in the form of post office, savings, national savings certificate, etc. It increases the liability for the government in the future. This The concept of national savings certificate is very clearly explained in money and banking. Now it is a saving which is initiated by the government through post office. So people can join the savings which are encouraged by the government through post office. So the benefit of that to the people is, after the maturity period of these schemes, the people will be getting the amount more than what they have paid initially. So people will be encouraged to participate in the schemes which are launched by the government through post offices. Okay, so small saving programs are initiated by the government through post office. So when the people join it, these schemes have a maturity period. After the maturity period, they will be getting the money back with a particular rate of interest for them. So that means they will be getting the more amount of money than what they have paid for that scheme initially. So people will be encouraged to join for that particular saving schemes which are introduced by the government through post office. Why government is doing that saving scheme through the post office? Because government want to raise fund. If such schemes are introduced by the government, people will definitely join in that saving scheme. Why? Because people know that after the maturity period they are going to get more amount than what they have paid initially. So definitely people will be joining in those schemes, because every month or every particular period of time they have to keep a particular amount, they have to give a particular amount to the post office. So small savings will be helpful for the people, and they very well know that after the maturity time they will be getting an amount more than what they have paid initially. So people will be encouraged to take part in such kind of post office savings. One such kind of post office saving is National Savings Certificate. So likewise, there are so many saving programs and schemes introduced by the post office, by the government through post office. So people will be encouraged to join in these saving schemes. So people know, because they are going to get more benefit during their maturity time. Now for the time being, it will be helpful for the government to raise the fund, because when the people, more and more people join in the scheme, more and more fund will be raised by the government. So it is a capital receipt. It is a receipt. But why it is a capital receipt? It is a receipt because government is able to raise the fund, but after the maturity period, government has to repay the amount. Government has to pay the amount and more than that to the people when they join for the scheme. That becomes a liability and reduces the asset of the government. But government is forced to do this. Why? Because government is in need of money. At the time, to raise the fund, government will encourage such kind of schemes through post office. But later on, it is a liability to the government and reduces the asset of the government. So capital receipt, even though it is a receipt, it will either create liability or reduces the asset of the government. So I hope the difference between revenue receipt and capital receipt is very clear to you. Revenue receipt is not creating any headache for the government, but capital receipt is creating a headache for the government, because revenue receipts neither create any liability nor reduces any asset. Tax and non-tax revenue government is getting, but capital receipts either create a liability or reduces the assets, because it is getting money but later it has to repay with the rate of interest. It is reducing the asset and creating liability for the future. So capital receipts, the components are disinvestment, then the next one is the other receipts, and the capital receipts consist of borrowings and other liabilities. Then comes the recovery of loans and other receipts. This is all about the capital receipt. Now the revenue budget in a nutshell. Revenue budget consists of revenue receipt and capital receipt. Revenue receipt consists of tax revenue, non-tax revenue, and capital receipt consists of borrowings and liabilities, recovery of loans and other receipts. And just see what I have written for revenue receipt: neither create any liability nor reduces any asset. But for capital receipt, either create a liability or reduces the asset. I hope the concept of the revenue budget is very clear to you. Thank you.